Welcome to Great Talk and Entertainment. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the podcast where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby! Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, KJ, and this is going to be my spoiler review for the episode 3 of the new DC comic animation film on Max, Creatures Commando. This is an episode 3 spoiler review, so if you have not seen this, pause this, hit the thumbs up button on my YouTube channel, because that would help my YouTube channel to grow and get more audience and followers. So I would appreciate that if you guys do that. And definitely come back, watch it, and let me know what you think about this show. Now, again, this is a spoiler review. Y'all been warned. Now, let's get into it. Episode 3 starts off with the rest of the members finally showing up at the manor. But we get a flashback of G.I. Robot as he takes on a whole group of Nazis. And then he gets taken back to the current moment, and we see Cersei's and everyone is beaten up and fighting, such as the bride, and she's tied up, and Nina is in a bathtub due to the fact that her gear has been destroyed, and that's the only thing that can keep her alive. She's like a fish, basically. She needs water, and without her suit that has plenty of water, she can't walk around, so she has to stay in that bathtub. But it was kind of funny because I just like how I like to see. I just liked how G.I. Robot picked up the bathtub and just ran her back to safety. I thought that was pretty funny, in a funny way, of course. But then this episode gives us another brief flashback of G.I. Robot as we learn that it's been 20 years and the Nazis are gone, and scientists are like in the process of rebuilding him or taking all data from him to make AI robots, as they said in this. But then we get back to Cersei's and her goons, and they're going to keep on fighting, but the commando shows up getting ready for an epic battle, and we get another flashback again where GI is like turned off and he's pretty much just junk, and he's been bought by a guy named Sam, and he collects like old war items and other stuff too. And a fun fact, he's a cat person. He has like 8 cats in this episode. Thought that was funny. But unfortunately, there's like some convention about Nazis or whatever, and I'm not sure if there were Nazi supporters or just conspiracy theories who believe Nazis are still existing and they have a big plan type thing. But then that really, really, really gets G.I. Robot activated, and he starts spraying everybody and like murders them really bad because, again, we learn in this whole episode that G.I.'s robots program, he's only built for one thing and one thing only, and that's to kill Nazis. And he has no other purpose. He has no other reasons. That's why he has no emotions. He just goes with the flow. And he doesn't understand because, again, like, they treat him like crap, basically. So he don't know how long he's been turned off. He don't know what to do. Nobody's taught him to find a new purpose. Nobody reprogrammed him. Even Amanda Waller didn't do it. Like, obviously, she just wants to keep him the way she is because, as we've seen in this episode too, is he G.I. Robot like kind of asked the question like, "Hey, are these all Nazis?" And Ric Flair goes, "Yep, they all are," and he just goes to town. But it's really like a weird back dark story about G.I. Robot where I feel so bad for him that that's his whole program is to kill Nazis. And I also think he's a funny character, and I had a couple laughs through some of the scenes with him and in the comedy of the humor through dialogue or the action, of course. And I just find myself torn between like, oh man, like his life like sucks, but then I'm like, well, he's just a robot and he has a purpose now, and I mean, how long does he stay? But he's been used and been put in different situations throughout years and years, apparently. And what a crazy like life, I guess. But in this, he is the hero, and he's even appreciated. But it's not like the way where he was considered a hero the first time, because also in this episode, like in the beginning, I believe that he was on a show and they were trying to honor him, but you can see his malfunction where he was acting like, are these people Nazis? And they would say, no, we're not. And they was like, well, that's what a Nazi would say. Like, so again, like, he's just a guy, he's a robot pretty much, and that's his only purpose. So that's the sad part about it. But here they kind of treat him like, yeah, you just did something real heroic. You finished the mission. So again, two different generations. That's the biggest difference, is the generation of this and how we perceive like robots and that. Because now, we got Batman, Superman, Aquaman. You got Jokers. You got Penguins. You got Mr. Freeze. You got, whatever you saw in the Suicide Squad. And these, like, so there's more scarier and more important things. So what GI Robot did was the most heroic thing, and I wanted to bring that up again because they were actually proud of him, happy for him, and they really appreciate his help, because obviously he saved the day, saved their lives, because they were losing to Cersei. And boy, what a fight between the whole group of, like, they got her face, because the way this ended, she's like, you have doomed us all. And it's like, what does that mean? Well, it means only two things. It's a multiverse story or a time traveling story, which you can combine both stories together. Of course, it's been done before. And because how would she know? Or unless it's just something that, Cersei knows there's somebody else planning a big attack on the whole world, like the big war is actually going to happen, and it's a lot worse. Like, maybe it's like a Dark Side, or it could be Brainiac, something like that, I guess. So, I mean, it could be anything, but the way, to me, it feels like it has something to do with the future. And she might have to go back in the past. But that's just a theory I just wanted to share. But let's kind of go back to this whole episode before I go any further. So what I like about this episode is I really like the backstory again of G.I. Robot, and I like how this one bounced back and forth between the past and the current time of this. And I like how this one is completely different from like the way the Bride's origin story was kind of told. And it's very unique, like, these two characters have a different past and different reasons, but in a way they're built like machines or monsters or whatever. And there's a parallel between G.I. Robot and the Bride. So I really like that, and I really thought that was a really interesting thing to kind of make that kind of obvious if you really pay attention to this episode, because with the Bride, she fell in love with her creator, Victor, and not with Frankenstein over there. But then, like, with G.I. Robot, he thought those army soldiers were his family in a way, and he thought he was doing a good deed, and he was kind of like gullible. Here's another parallel. Like, when the Bride was made, obviously she was like a baby, a child, scared, don't know, confused. You gotta raise her a little bit, teach her things, just like you do with a child. With G.I. Robot, they didn't do that with him. They only gave him one purpose and nothing else. Never told him about life, never programmed him to be good at anything else or be used for any other reason but doing that. And, he's kind of like a Wish version or a Temu version item, but it's one of those things. He's just not the robot, but he's just a robot that was used and wasn't put together, built well. And I think he only has one weapon, or two guns as his hands or whatever. But the parallels there between that character and the bride. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I like that because it kind of shows you like, some of these members have no purpose in life, and what Amanda Waller did is probably the most heroic thing these characters will ever do, ideally on this show. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I with Cersei's saying you doom the world, I wonder, like, again, I said my theory is it's either like a time traveling or a multiverse story where something really bad happened and Cersei went back to try to fix it. Now you're saying, well, how can you change the history in a different universe? You have to break one of the timelines to save a timeline or replace the timeline. But that's the only thing you can do. And with time traveling, you got to go to that exact moment, that exact time and year, and you don't know if it's like you can't change it. It's like determined. It's just destined to be the way that situation happened. Type. So there's only ways. And again, it could be something like Cersei knows somebody else is planning to do something very destructive, and maybe she thinks like the way she's been handling things is the only way to get what she needs to do to become successful at this war that's going to happen. So there's other reasons why, but with the way now is we got like the Flash movie to kind of introduce the multiverse and that. And I know this it's not canon, but the idea that DC as a studio now is doing the multiverse story in a way. So I can see that, and we know that James Gunn again is rebooting the DCU, so multiverse story would make sense. So, and maybe this is the start of it. I don't know, but I can see it happening. In my opinion, I do. So, I like that. I like about that. And then another thing that I like about was, this episode made sense to see a fight and a battle, and we got to see a better team up with everybody. Like, how would they work together, and what type of like team up, like moves or fights or stunts that they perform that would help defeat somebody like an Amazonian woman, right? And I thought it was pretty interesting, and they all seem now so far like they're willing to go all the way and put in the work, I guess. So it's really interesting, like, in that short period of time, they seem like they bonded in a way and maybe not realized it. But I like that idea. And then I think another thing, if I was thinking about Brainiac or Darkseid, could you imagine if Lana is the one that's going to do something very evil and destructive the whole time, and Rick's just going to be heartbroken, but it'll motivate him to finish the mission. So I can see that happening too. What I didn't like about this is I felt like with G.I. Robot, they couldn't shorten the idea of his backstory just a little bit. I didn't think it needed to make sense to show like him just being junk, or either just take out the scene where one scientist or mechanic, bioengineer decided to, upgrade him or use the pattern or format to make other like AI robots. They could have took that one out and just shorten it, because I feel like the audience would understand already, just for the main reason that he's only programmed to kill Nazis. I think people got the hint, but I think they focused it just a little bit too long on it. They could have gave us more fight scenes or more dialogue during with Cersei's and stuff, I feel like. But I think that's my only complaint about that. But not a big deal. But if I had to give this one episode 1 out of 10, I'm definitely giving it a 7. Great episode. It was kind of... There was nothing really special about it, but just the origin story of G.I. Robot. But I think episode 4, it most likely will be picking up the pace even more and getting to the point, in my opinion. But not a bad episode, and so far so good for this season so far, so I can't wait to see more. But hey, that's my review, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment Official Channel. Subscribe. Hit that notification button so you always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace